All right, let's get this started, everyone. Hey, happy afternoon. Happy Friday. Oh, God, I'm so happy it's Friday. For those that don't know me, I'm Eric Cooley. By day, I serve as a director of sales at PepsiCo, but I'm also extremely proud to represent the SHFM Board of Directors and senior supplier and chair of the SHFM Industry Advisory Board, or as we like to call it, IAB. On behalf of SHFM and the IAB, I'm thrilled to welcome you to the launch of our brand new four-part series, Industry Insights, Getting In and Getting Going with our contract partners. For those that don't know, the SHFM Advisory Board, or IAB, is dedicated to elevating the supplier voice through education, engagement, and philanthropy. As a voice of the supplier community within SHFM, we're proud to launch a new virtual series, Industry Insights. Today marks our first session within the series where we'll be taking a deep dive on all things Aramark and Aventura, featuring direct guidance from Aramark leaders on becoming an approved supplier, expanding your presence, and driving strategic growth in the food service space. This series was created in response to supplier feedback, and today is just the beginning. Future sessions will feature Compass, Sodexo, and Guggenheimer. Stay tuned, and following today's exciting discussions, we welcome your feedback and ideas for what's next. Before we dive into today's session, just a few quick housekeeping notes. One, be sure to say a friendly hello to your SHFM industry colleagues in the chat and let us know so far what has been your favorite summertime memory or activity. Two, the session is being recorded so it can be played on demand. It will be available early next week on SHFM's website and YouTube channel. And three, we have a few pre-submitted questions to cover, but there won't be a formal Q&A portion during today's sessions. Again, if there are more questions or anything else, please send them directly to me. We will make sure they get answered in some way, shape, or form. And lastly, the insights today shared by today's experts reflect their professional opinions and should not be interpreted as official positions or directives from the organizations they represent or SHFM. With that in mind, let's take a moment to highlight some exciting upcoming SHFM events, a fantastic opportunity to connect and network with industry colleagues across the country. First, we have the Chicago local at Bank of America on July 23rd. Can't forget about the Foundation Gala on November 10th at Inside the Park in New York. I also want to remind everyone about Awesome National Conference that will be held September 16th and through 18th at the beautiful Renaissance Esmeralda Resort in Palm Springs, California. Engage in sessions that blend creativity and storytelling led by subject matter experts who inspire unconventional thinking. Set in a relaxed resort setting, it's a perfect balance of learning, networking, and professional growth. And I can't not give this plug, being a part of the IAB. And don't forget to sign up for the Hunger Games when you register. It's a fun and impactful conference event that supports the Palm Springs community through our SHFM, IAB, and foundational charitable partner, Food Now. So don't wait, register for the conference and book your hotel today. Now, I'd like to get right into today's sessions. It's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Maria Cleveland, Sales Director, Aramark Ernex, Brands, co-moderator and member of the SHFM IAB. Michael Moore, Chief Sustainability Officer, Restaurantware, co-moderator and member of the SHFM IAB. Patrick Mayhew, Vice President, Head of Strategic Sourcing, Aramark and Aventura International. And Betsy Rapport, Vice President and Brand Strategy, Aramark Workplace Experience Group. With that, I am done speaking, and I will pass it over to Michael Moore. All yours, Michael.
All right. Thank you. Everyone, I am excited. This is something that I want a big thank you to go out to a lot of people in the IAB that made this happen for us. A lot of work, a lot of questions, a lot of time went into it, but we're really, really excited with the opportunity we've put together today. And with that, I'm Michael Moore from Restaurantware, as you heard. I'm joined by the wonderful Maria Cleveland from Ernex, but today, for the next hour, we're going to focus on how to work with Aramark from application to supplier. We want to look at onboarding to growth, long-term value creation, all the wonderful things in between. And so we have two wonderful leaders from Aramark with us today. Maria, do you mind doing some introductions for us?
Sure. Yes, we're so excited to dig in with both Patrick and Betsy. But I do want to take a moment to kind of give you a framework of their amazing experience in their organization. So Patrick Mayhew is the VP of Strategic Sourcing for both of Aramark and Avendra. He's been with Aramark for over 9 years, beginning in global procurement with several categories, including bakery, protein, and dairy. But then many years ago, he was actually promoted to the VP of supply chain when Aramark acquired Avendra in a new important role, acting as the conduit between sourcing and all of the Aramark enterprise while overseeing all 7 lines of business at Aramark. And most recently, Patrick has taken over all of the strategic sourcing for North America for both Aramark and Avendra, leading a team of over 75 sourcing leaders, overseeing approximately $18 billion in spend across all categories. So welcome, Patrick. Thank you.
Patrick, do you sleep?
And he's got a low resting heartbeat, which you need for this type of role. And our second panelist is Betsy Rapport, who is VP of Brand Strategy, who's an accomplished thought leader across many areas, including marketing, brand strategy, program development, and communications. With over 25 years of experience, Betsy is a hospitality professional who takes a really hands-on approach. She's known for building and cultivating cross-functional teams and has demonstrated an ability to deliver innovative, seamless solutions and creatively managing resources. She's been with Aramark since 2001, holding various roles across multiple industries, such as workplace, healthcare, higher education, as well as sports and entertainment. So in a nutshell, Betsy knows the business inside and out. So without further ado, I'm going to kick it over to Michael to get us going on our interplay.
Well, thank you. So let's start where everything should start, I think, in these conversations in the beginning. Let's go back to the initial application process. And Patrick, if you don't mind, I'm going to put you under the spotlight to start. So let's assume we're looking at a supplier. They just apply. And that comes across your desk, your team's desk. What are the core internal questions that you and your team look at? What do you ask when you look at that application?
And just let me start by saying thank you very much for having us today. Thank you to the SHFM community. We very much appreciate the opportunity to speak to the group today. So to answer your question, a couple of things we look at as a supplier is applying to become an approved supplier for Aramark. Let me start at the beginning. We have 2,500 suppliers under contract. So obviously within Aramark, we have a compliance model. We want to ensure that we're showing value to our approved suppliers. So we want to see if they're applying in a certain space, do we already have a supplier in that space? For one reason, we don't want to cannibalize our existing suppliers' business. We also want to be able to provide clear direction to our operators and not have 6, 7 suppliers in a certain category. So that's one of the first things we look at. Also, current distribution footprint, any history we have with the supplier. Obviously, we have a lot of contacts throughout the industry, our distribution partners. So we might check in to say, what does the stocking look like here? Have you had supply chain issues? So just trying to gather relevant background facts, things of that nature, understanding opportunities across the enterprise, where those products might fit, having some dialogue with our internal partners, Betsy being an example, to just see where we have opportunities across our business. And then finally, I am in procurement, so the economic program proposal is also very important. So, just making sure there's a value offering.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's got to be the right fit. It has to be something where there's space for it, there's need for it, obviously. And then in terms of scale, distribution, you're looking at all these things just as a glance before that conversation even starts. Now, does that change if I am a service provider versus a product provider? Is there a different conversation that happens?
Similar conversation, but different aspects to the business. Obviously, a service provider often is stepping foot in our client locations. With a provider of a product delivering through distribution, and kind of a different ballgame. So we do a little bit more background information there, ensuring payment terms, credit app, COI, all of that kind of stuff. Geographical coverage is also important. Obviously we have locations in highly dense populated areas, cities, things like that. But we also have remote locations that we want to ensure receive proper service coverage, all of those things. So we're looking to make sure they're able to service our business throughout. Any differentiators that would be available from that particular service provider, any current suppliers, any current relationships we have. And also, I think a big thing is we've, got into 2025 here, reporting capabilities, IT, dashboards, things like that. How advanced a particular company has in that area is a big differentiator for our business as we're constantly looking for reporting capabilities, metrics, so we can communicate to our business, here's how that service provider is performing over the past month, over the past 6 months. So we can highlight areas of concern for follow-up, remediation, things of that nature. So I think that's becoming increasingly important, especially for service providers.
Okay, so you're looking at industry reputation, you're looking at internal conversations that you've had, the footprint, distribution, but the metrics one does seem new to this year. Is there, am I understanding that right? That transparency and reporting is going to be more important as we continue to grow as an industry, being able to provide that.
Yeah, I think there's an expectation that we'll be able to dig into data and resources to figure out where are the problem areas, where are areas that need to be addressed. And, my role is communicating to our businesses to say, here's the performance of this service provider. Here are specific areas where we can improve, things of that nature. So I think more data analytics are helpful, especially in that area.
Okay. This next one I'm going to touch on, I've probably touched on it in outreach in the past, but what are the red flags that you look for? What are the common don'ts that we want to avoid because they cause friction in this application process?
Sure. I guess starting with, a knowledge of our business. I think it's important coming in to have research, better understand our business. What are our priorities? What are the things that we're driving towards? Be it sustainability, growth, certain areas of our business. So a lot of research coming in, so you're not starting from scratch, and we can tell that you've gone the lanes to better understand Aramark and what are our priorities as a starting point. Unrealistic expectations around ramp up. I've had suppliers come we've recently done a contract with and say, next week I want to be in and meet with your CEO, your COO, and everybody on your executive team. So I think, some expectations around how this business relationship is going to kick off. Our CEO is pretty busy, so I'm not sure he's going to be able to join on a week's notice, things like that. Supply chain disruptions, in my role specifically, procurement, supply chain, the operators, the businesses are very unhappy when I tell them they're going to be able to have a product and offering for a limited time offer for a launch, and then we kind of fall on our face from a supply chain standpoint. So that can ruin your reputation pretty quickly in our business. And then just, understanding what products you've been approved for within the Aramark business and what you have not, and staying in the lane, I guess you could say, in that regard. So those are some of the common red flags we see, and try and guide people in the right direction as we're kicking off the relationship.
All right. So do your homework, know who you're applying to, where their business focus is, what your fit could be. Be prepared to ramp up when that's on, but don't rush into it if from day one. That's what I'm hearing. Kind of practice, patience and manage expectations.
Yeah, very much so. Everyone's excited to kick off a new business relationship, but be very sure that you're going to be able to fulfill your obligations, because you can ruin your reputation pretty quickly off the bat, and we've experienced that from time to time.
That's pretty solid advice.
Yeah.
All right, so let's look at the other side of that coin. And Betsy, I don't know, this might be for you as well, but what's the best way to gain that positive attention that we all want? We want someone to look at our organization and say, oh yeah, I'd love to work with them. Tell me more about them. How do we do that?
Yep. And first, I do want to say thank you. I'm echoing Patrick's comments. We're really excited to be part of this. So hello to everybody. Yeah, I mean, a lot of what Patrick said, like coming in and understanding the business. And then within Aramark, there are multiple businesses from, student nutrition, corrections, healthcare, patient, retail. There's a lot of different facets to Aramark as a whole. So depending on, what the specific need is at the time, or having like that wide range education and then being able to understand the differences between the businesses. Each business, each line of business, they have different types of clients, they have different customers and guests, and they have a variety of different needs. And, we have things that are very specific, like a patient tray versus a retail environment, or, a food hall versus student nutrition that's, highly regulated. So really understanding the business based on the product or service that you are providing, right? And then making sure also, we love when partners come to us with ideas that make sense for our business. And, from a workplace standpoint, we will try new things. And so we're interested in piloting, and we're interested in trying something, understanding the product needs to be able to be ordered and received, but having that kind of proactive nature and some innovative ideas We do really like that because it helps us, it's mutually beneficial, and, working together, I would say is the best prescription, if you will,
Yeah.
for a good long-term relationship.
And what is, in looking at that, that long-term relationship, looking down the road, but even right now in the beginning of the application process, where, on our side, we're probably antsy, understandably, it can't go as quickly as we'd probably love it to go. But what's the line, and how do we identify between being credible and a good partner, a potential partner, and just persistent or overly persistent?
That's a great question. I'm not sure I have a 100% concrete answer for that one. I think it's just really, Betsy briefly mentioned it, understanding the goals and strategy of our business and tailoring your approach to that. I think we're out there putting out press releases about our business, what's important to us, what are our sustainability agenda, new clients, supplier diversity, things like that. Just understanding what you see of our business, what we can obviously tell you and guide you in the right direction, and then kind of tailoring your approach to say, hey, I understand this is important to you. You guys are entering into this new space. We have the product that could suit those needs. So I think it's, as Betsy said, just creating a partnership, collaborating, and really having mutual goals that we're working towards.
Okay. So let's assume in this process, you've looked at our application, everything is fantastic. This is exactly what you've been looking for. That's great. From that point forward, what does the kind of onboarding approval process look like?
Sure. Yeah, we're a very diverse business. So, once you get through all of the contracting efforts, all of the education about how to do business with us, there is a backlog of information and education on how you become an approved supplier, how we get pricing uploaded into the system, as an example, access to our client customer list portal, things of that nature. So after that, I think it's really meeting with key stakeholders throughout the business. Once documentation is received, access to available tools, education sessions, and then an initial kickoff to discuss the business and opportunities we have within the business. As I mentioned, we have a very diverse business across stadiums, national parks, workplace experience. So, we have a diverse business, and finding the right fit for those products or services. But, very important for me and my team is showing value to our supplier community. So we really, once we have a contract, we form that relationship. We want to kick off that relationship and make sure we're showing value to our suppliers, helping them understand our business, and really getting their foot in the door in the appropriate way to grow their business through partnering with Aramark.
Okay. So am I hearing right that there's, obviously we all know the initial phase, the contracting, where you're going through the numbers, you're doing pricing, all that kind of stuff. Once you get through that, then the introductions start to come into kind of the key people you'll be working with, as you say, the stakeholders in the organization that are going to help this partnership grow on your side. And then it's the education of knowing how to work within Aramark effectively in that partnership for growth, and then really honing in on those details, the opportunities that have been identified. Does that sound, did I recap that right?
Yeah, I believe so. And I think my team is really assisting, co-piloting you in that relationship to make the connections within the appropriate business, to kick off those relationships, and then follow up from there to make sure, we're delivering on the value to the supplier community and the organizations that we're partnering with. So yeah, I think you summarized it well.
Okay. And so kind of backing up a little bit as a more holistic view, can you touch at least a little bit on how Avendra fits into all of this?
Sure. Yeah, the $1 million question.
Sorry.
Avendra, yeah, Aramark acquired Avendra about 7 years ago as our GPO partner. Avendra is predominantly in the hospitality space, with recently entering into theme parks, things of that nature. But my team is procurement for Avendra and Aramark. So we're looking for suppliers to operate in both spaces, ideally. We certainly have opportunities across both entities, as well as other entities we support, HPSI being another example, as a GPO out on the West Coast in senior living. So as I mentioned, we have a very diverse and wide-ranging business. There's lots of opportunity within, working with Aramark to get in a lot of different spaces. So Avendra, predominantly in the hospitality world, but yeah, once you enter a contract with us, it really opens you up to that total scope of businesses.
Okay. So opens the door to a wide range of things. And from there, it's just, again, evaluating where the fit is, where the need is, and where the potential growth could be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So in this journey, we've kind of covered the onboarding process and what that looks like from our seat at the table. So let's kind of move forward. And Maria, I'm going to throw it over to you. Let's talk about once we're in, once the approval's done.
Wonderful. Yeah, so I think in the next section here, we want to look in and dive into the supplier fit. How do they look for growth opportunities in the organization? So first, Betsy, I want to understand a little bit more from you, an overview of the workforce experience group and what that entails.
Sure. So I think we have a slide we're going to share. We'll just flash that up real quick. Workplace Experience Group includes 4 different companies. Each of those companies meet specific client needs. So we have Workplace Hospitality. That is our, it could be a blue collar, white collar. We do manufacturing facilities, call centers, offices across the country. We have Aramark Refreshments. That is really 24/7 snacks and beverages, break spaces. We're moving into even more enhanced amenities for locations that may not have a kitchen, but they want more for their team members and employees that are on site. Within the refreshments business, that also includes Canada, which is different than the other 3. And then the size within refreshments we have very, very small local businesses, and we have very, very large national accounts. So there's a very vast size and scope of the clients that we serve in refreshments. We then have Salute Hospitality. That is a newer company for us that we created based on, the unique needs of a military base. It is not just a place that people work. It's also a place where people play and live. They live as families. So we think about, in some cases, multi-generational families and how we can support our team members, our military members and their families. LifeWorks is our luxury amenities brand that is usually targeted towards those companies and organizations that are providing a true amenity to their employees. It could be free lunch. It could be it's unique custom every time experiences. So when we talk about the products that we feature across all 4 of these organizations, they do tend to change. There's different applications, different financial models, and different guest needs.
Wow.
So all of this is just under the workplace experience umbrella.
That is correct.
Okay.
And I would say we also, not to make it more confusing, we also do have clients that leverage more than one of these companies at a time. And so we have a group called the Portfolio Group, and they help manage those more complex clients of ours. At the end of the day, no matter what company within the portfolio we are about creating experiences that matter to our guests, making it easy for our clients to do what they need to do, and providing them the data, single point of contact, engagement that they need. So we really want to make sure that we can help support our clients to, meet their objectives.
Understood. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's a lot of things to be keeping track of and cross-functionally. So why do you think it's so critical for suppliers to understand the structure and nuances of these different parts of business, Betsy?
Yeah, so just with any other business, with every other business, there are specific targets. So for a supplier partner, it is really valuable that they understand what the Aramark Workplace Experience Group is trying to solve for. So if it's for a specific project, it's usually for a specific target market, a guest. It could be a price point. It could be an operating model. I mean, we serve all different types of customers in all different types of environments. And so a lot of times there are very good reasons why we're looking for a very specific type of product. So if you look at manufacturing, for example, it's a huge space. We want to make sure that those guests that we're serving in manufacturing can get what they need. It's nutritious, there's variety, and they can get it really quickly, which is interesting because it's very similar to, in a hospital environment, a nurse, a doctor. And so we do work together with some of the other businesses, but that's a little bit different than if I'm working at a fintech company that I have the opportunity to play during the day, to have a teaching kitchen opportunity at night, to learn something while I'm also at work. And so there's different needs and nuances. And again, they could be rooted in economics, they can be rooted in client needs, and making sure, I mean, at the end of the day, we are a guest in someone else's home. And we want to make sure that we're supporting our clients in everything they want to accomplish for their team members. You know, attract and retain is super important for us. And so everything we do, no matter how small it may seem, it really levels up to that. We do not want to be a transactional organization. We want to build relationships with our clients. And we also want to do that with our supplier partners. And so it's a very similar relationship sometimes in our mind. But getting back to your question, there are these nuances in each company. So it's super important that, you know, for a supplier partner, they may think that, oh, I have this and it can go everywhere. Not always. However, we will try, and we have in several different instances where we've taken an ingredient, for example, we're able to leverage that ingredient several different ways to meet different needs. You can see an ingredient that could appear, I'll go back to a former role, but we would develop and be able to look at the channel of retail, for example. So workplace hospitality, healthcare retail, possibly some application in collegiate. And internally, from a development standpoint, we're able to utilize ingredients across maybe certain businesses, but again, looking at it through the lens of what is the objective for that item, right? So there's a lot of different ways. Like, we really try to be creative. Again, we want it to be a partnership. So we want to obviously help our supplier partners grow their business to help us grow ours. That said, we have to be very mindful that, you know, not everything's going to work everywhere.
Sure.
So it's up to us on the supplier side. It would benefit us a lot to kind of, as Patrick touched on earlier, do our homework and know that it's just not a one size fits all solution. It has to be the right thing in the right place for the right client.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Right. And so this webinar also is educating, you know, many vendors that maybe haven't done business with Aramark in the past. And I'm curious, what types of resources, maybe internal or external, should suppliers use to get up to speed? Or, you know, are there any tips and tricks that you can provide them, Betsy?
So I would say, if it's a supplier that's currently within our portfolio and working with Patrick and the rest of the supply chain team, there's definitely additional opportunities to talk to individual people within lines of business where their products and services are utilized. I would say if it's a provider that maybe is new going, I mean, I think Patrick even mentioned, we have, you know, there's some public information. We are a public company, aramark.com. You can learn about each line of business there, at least at a high level, to really understand what sector they're in, what type of client they are supporting. That's probably a really good place to start. And then also, you know, again, during the process, and Patrick even said it, his team acts as a co-pilot to help with that. So I'd say there's a certain amount of information that's out there today, but then as you get into the organization through the process, there would be more opportunity to really get some more details and examples of how products and services can be applied. You know, I do feel like it is a two-way street. And so we're not expecting that someone's going to know everything. At the same time, if we're telling you that there's a very specific need and these are the very specific attributes of a product that we're looking for, please don't bring us something that is the complete opposite of that, because that might be an objective for that company. Right. And, you know, that's something, when you had mentioned, you know, what are the red flags? Like, that would be a red flag for us.
Sure. Okay. Got it. And maybe also, once a supplier is on board, what do you typically see as maybe barriers for growth?
I mean, I feel like the biggest barrier is going to be distribution. So for us, and I'm more on the program development, they've already gone through their signing the contract, and Patrick and his team have said this is now available. And he did mention earlier, sometimes it takes a while. Distribution is a huge piece of the pie.
Mhm.
We do not want to activate or execute or release anything until we know that product can be received. It needs to be ordered and it needs to come into our locations.
Mhm.
Again, the businesses are different. We use different providers to get the ingredients, if it's an ingredient or a CPG product or even other support items. There's different providers. That said, we have learned our lesson many, many times over that we really need to make sure we have distribution of the product.
Okay.
So that I would say is like a number one.
Mhm.
And the other thing is too is being proactive. So, whether it's coming up with an idea or, setting up time to ideate or, trying to be more proactive around what could something be used for. It could be an ingredient, for example, that we use today, but maybe we're applying it in a different way. Those types of things for us are super important and very well received because it's a product that we can get.
Mhm.
They're used to it, the field, and we're going to
Mhm.
do something different with it. That would be great. It helps us grow our business and
Sure.
grow the relationship. So I would say being proactive in distribution are probably the two really important things,
Okay.
that not only are sometimes barriers. We have sometimes there's partners that, I mean, they don't reach out. And
Right.
so it could be because they don't know, right? However, hospitality industry, hospitality company,
Mhm.
we want to have that relationship and engage.
Sure, sure. And it's also, it's finding ways to add value that is
Absolutely.
helping the operators. Sure, that
That's a
makes
great
sense.
point.
Yeah. So Patrick, I'm curious, how does distribution readiness differ between maybe startups or your larger suppliers? What have you seen as differences?
Or, yeah. As Betsy mentioned, distribution is extremely important. Startups are often more challenged from a distribution standpoint as opposed to large companies, as you could imagine.
Yeah.
Just kicking off a new business venture, a new product, whatever it may be. It's important, very important to form those distribution relationships. And we are of the size and scale where we can drive stocking in some cases, but it is very helpful when our suppliers, potential suppliers, have pre-existing relationships with the distributors that we use, have the ability to influence stocking, things like that. As Betsy mentioned, if we can get a new business venture off the ground pretty quickly, it's important to have those relationships and have the stocking already in place.
Got it. Okay. And do you see any gaps or any opportunities in your current portfolio?
Sure. I mentioned earlier, we do already have 2,500 supplier contracts, so we have quite a bit of coverage from a supplier and service standpoint, but there are certainly opportunities. Innovation being at the forefront, in our roles, it's important to constantly be bringing innovation to our business, our clients. Betsy, as an example, to make sure we're first to market in categories, we want to obviously always be bringing new innovative ideas to our clients in order to show our value as Aramark. So that's extremely important. My team is very often involved in that and extremely interested to hear about new ideas, new innovative products or services we can present to the business. On top of that, diverse MWE suppliers, extremely important to us. We've made commitments out in the industry to grow that spend, to grow those relationships. So we've put quite a bit of resources into building that network. We have a team within supply chain who focuses only on that. Labor saving solutions and fresh foods are extremely important. And also, we are seeing more drive for local programs, local coffees, as an example.
Mhm.
Local brands are resonating more and more with our clients. So we've put, again, quite a bit of resources into that and our local sourcing team to make sure we have solutions proactively for our business, for our clients, to make sure we're meeting all of their needs from a procurement and supply chain standpoint.
Yeah. So it sounds to me that some of your clients are really driving that request for, emerging and diverse vendors. Is that what I'm hearing?
Very much so. I mean, we are driving it as an organization as Aramark, but we're also responding to our clients' needs. So we've
Yeah.
tried to be proactive in building out a network across the country, across all the geographies where we are in across the globe, to have those solutions. Because yes, it is being driven by our clients, and in some cases where they're mandating certain percentages of spend on a particular RFP that might come out, things of that nature. We often see local requirements within 100 miles, 50 miles of a particular location that we need to solve for. So it is, it has grown substantially, those needs from our client's perspective, but we've tried to be proactive as an organization to solution for that because we kind of saw it coming a ways ago. So it is extremely important for us in our business and something that we've put quite a bit of resources towards and dedicated a lot to over the past couple of years.
Great, cool. So I'm going to pose this to both of you. Can you share with us a success story of, a supplier that scaled up effectively and kind of like hit all the marks?
Sure. I'll start, Patrick, but you chime in. This is a project that Patrick and I we worked on together several years ago now. It seems like it was just yesterday. We had a very specific business case where we needed a new dessert product, I'll call it. It was for going across certain lines of business in the retail space specifically. We reached out to several different partners of ours. Patrick helped with that. And we had one partner that came to us and said, I know you usually utilize this line and you kind of stay in this area, right? Cost, ingredients, all things. They helped us understand what else they had available, how we could work with them to create something that worked for us, elevated us, was very easy to execute from, across business units in this particular example. And they had distribution. They helped. So Patrick mentioned sometimes those, some of our suppliers can help kind of push the distribution and we pull it. We were able to do that. So what we did was we created a program, I will call it, where we had, a new collection available. One SKU, which I will take as a huge win, Patrick. This is me. We had one SKU with 100% distribution. It was the most popular, consumer tested. We did a whole bunch of consumer testing, and we were able to get it everywhere. So again, that to me may not seem, in this conversation, I feel like everyone on the call is like, yeah, that's a very big deal. When I tell my family, it's really not to them, but that is a huge win. And so we were able to not only create a really great product, so it was a product development opportunity for us. We developed a high quality product. It worked for the financials. It worked for an execution standpoint, and it could be distributed, received, and ordered easily. That to me, I think is a huge win. And it was really, a testament to the, ability of the partner to kind of come to us with things we did not know, or at least I didn't know. Patrick might have known. I did not know, and kind of share with us more than just where we already were. So, and this was for, nothing super crazy different, but something that really resonated quite well with our customers. So anything to add, Patrick?
Yeah, I think you summarized it well, Betsy. It's often a challenge when we're working with 55 different distribution points to have everything work flawlessly. Obviously, we do quite a bit of transitions if we're changing from one supplier to another, and then we're just changing out a slot, working within distribution. This was a new product launch where we were able to have distribution across 55 different distribution points and really work flawlessly with the partnership of the supplier in question to work with the distributor, ensure all the deliveries were on time. Everything worked flawlessly throughout the introduction. So it was a great job. Betsy led and coordinated everything. So credit to her on that one.
I feel like what I'm hearing across all of this is that, from application to onboarding to success, it's not a magic formula. It's just having the business sense to know where the good fit is and waiting for that opportunity where it comes in, but that comes through good communication with you and your team in terms of educating what you supply, whether it's a product or a service, and also really where you're focused in the coming months and years.
I would agree. Yes.
So also kind of pivoting a little bit now into distribution and getting the product physically to the the client sites of that nature. So what are your preferred distribution methods? Direct, broadline distribution, through redistribution? Patrick,
Yeah.
can you expand on that a little bit?
Sure, it's a tricky question. I'm not sure if any of our distribution partners are on the call, but let me start at the beginning.
It's a safe space,
Yeah,
Patrick. It's a safe space.
let me start at the beginning. Redistribution really is outside of our purview. We're buying from a distributor. I understand redistribution. I've worked with all of them, working with Dot, all of that stuff. It makes a ton of sense to use it in certain scenarios, but we're buying directly from a Cisco, US Foods, Vistar, things of that nature. So I think it really depends on the category, the cost structure, what size of orders we would have. Obviously, if it's a direct delivery, we would need to hit certain minimums. So it's kind of a caveated answer on what works by product. The redistribution part is really the supplier's responsibility, their decision, whatever makes the most sense economically. But from our standpoint, direct is great. Broadliner is great. It really depends on the volume at which we're using the product, where we can justify direct deliveries or where it makes more sense to go to a broadliner because of scale.
Okay, that makes sense. Great. And any common mistakes that you've seen suppliers make when they're proposing to go to market? Anything that you like watch outs?
So I would say from my perspective, which I mean, I'm assuming Patrick, you will agree with me and may have more. When we are activating something, so again, something that's not in distribution, or the timing is adjusted. Again, Michael mentioned communication, super important. We are well aware if there are sometimes glitches around manufacturing and when something hits, but we need to be very confident that products are available, and we
Okay.
communicate that as such, because the moment we ask the field to buy something new to help them, and there's all these reasons why, if they cannot get it, we're done. That is very challenging to come back from. The other thing is on the CPG side, I'd say more. We have planograms for different needs, different sizes. When a partner comes to us and they're pitching something, especially like I'll give an example in the refreshments business, we have a lot of what we consider a micro market, a self-serve market. You shop, you grab, you pay, and you go. They're not huge. And so it's very specific. That planogram is based on insights and all these things. We cannot add a lot of things to that planogram in a way that is just going to make it easy. Like, not really, again, understanding the business and what we're solving for. So coming to the table with something that does not have the insight to support the planogram, the placement, even if it's for a promotion, those are things that just make it a little bit more difficult. But going back to my comments earlier, like knowing the business, even asking is fine, but like, leaning into something that is seemingly not going to fit because it doesn't fit with the business model, that's a challenge, and the distribution is a big one.
Okay. And anything to add there, Patrick?
Yeah, if I could add, I think Betsy summarized it well. I've seen packaging come into play quite a bit too. If someone's trying to introduce something that's really meant for grocery stores, retail into our business, back of house, and we have to tear apart, 35 little packages, and so, having the right fit for the food service model. I've seen some suppliers be challenged in that regard. So I think it's something to take into account. I know our sustainability friends are on the call today. So ripping apart 35 packages of retail packaging for a food service operation doesn't make a ton of sense. So just the right fit, going to market, making sure you're understanding our business needs.
Okay, good. And curious about, how you work through channel conflict internally, what role does maybe somebody like Bob Nolan, who's in category management, I believe you have some category management in your organization. Can you walk through, how you work through that?
Sure. And so we have CPG and coffee, so package, and then we have ingredients, right? At the highest level. So just I think maybe I'll address the CPG and packaging, the coffee for this. But so Bob Dolan, he is our VP of category management. The man has a plethora of experience. He is a walking dictionary of all things. He is super knowledgeable. I'm highly partnered with him, as are team members of Patrick's from a supply chain standpoint. So from my perspective, I work a lot with Bob and his team to help us work through any of those challenges, because he really has that knowledge around the products. His team is also creating those planograms I just mentioned, all insights based, all data driven. And so he is a huge support when we talk about those types of conflicts and how we work through them.
Got it.
I would just say on the ingredient side, we have a supplier development team. Ingredients are obviously different. We're trying to have one supplier that works across several businesses. So we have a supplier development team led by Paul Carr, who works with the culinary teams within all of our respective businesses to ensure alignment. Everybody's on the same page and we have the right product for the right fit. You know, we would prefer to have one supplier who fits all the needs across every business, across every value tier. So it can get a little tricky, but we have that insight coming from the culinary team, and we have the right people on our side within supply chain and procurement to connect those dots, work with the culinary teams within each businesses, and make sure we have the right products in place.
Great. That's fantastic.
Mm.
Cool. Michael, I think I'm going to turn it over to you for some other insights we'd like to glean.
Okay. Yeah. We've covered, a ton. And so we just have a couple more things we want to go through. And one section we've touched on this, but there's a few more things to look at. It's kind of the do's, the don'ts, the turnoffs. I think in a lot of these opportunities from our side, you don't get an everyday opportunity to speak with, Patrick or Betsy or anyone from your team. We just want to make sure we make the most of that opportunity. So when you're looking at suppliers like us, what are the behaviors that you've seen that you really want us to avoid at any stage of this, whether it's onboarding or through the partnership?
So, I mean, I think we touched on some of it, but I think coming to the table as collaborative, open-minded, curious, right? Wanting to learn the businesses to really help get to a great place. I would say things to avoid. I think I mentioned this already, but like pushing products that don't fit the business need is one of them. Ones that are not in distribution. The other thing that I think is very important, because a lot of times our suppliers or contacts within sometimes engage, at the end of the day, this is all about a hospitality moment and making sure our guests have what they need. If there is a lack of responsiveness from a partner, that's challenging. And I'm not saying it's every day, but like if we're reaching out and we're picking up the phone, we need you, we have a problem, having a quick response is very important, because it's not about us.
Right.
It's about making sure our client and our guests have what they need. And that's how I think about it. So I feel like that's important to just share, because I feel like as the organization, like we are behind the scenes at the end of the day, and we're really trying to make sure that our clients shine and our guests have a great experience, and they have to have the materials we need to make the food and create the experiences to have them have a great day.
Yeah, you're in service to them, so
Yes.
timeliness
Yeah.
is
Yes.
You're not asking for your health.
Yes.
And I don't want to throw anyone under a bus or anything like that, but speaking broadly, is there an example you can pull from where kind of something like you're talking about went wrong and it put an opportunity in jeopardy or a relationship in jeopardy, so that we can just make sure we avoid that as a group?
Sure. I mean, I think lack of responsiveness for, something critical, that there's several. I'll take a half step in a very general sense. When I say like come open-minded and curious and, really into building a relationship, we had a situation, there was a leadership meeting. I was in the room. There were people well above me in the room, from both the Aramark side and one of our partners. And there was a topic, and there was an opportunity to have a discussion about something, and the partner basically tried to school the Aramark team on what it should be and what they should do. And I would just say that is the opposite of coming in open-minded. That did not go over well. I'm not saying it was a reflection of the whole organization. Everyone has a bad day, but that sticks out to me as like, I was surprised that.
I'm uncomfortable just hearing about it.
Well, yeah. And so I'm not saying it happens often, but this is a relationship company, right? Where we're in the relationship business, hospitality. And so that was something that was not a good day, and something that, in my opinion, Patrick, please chime in if you want, but that was something that like adjusted the dynamic of the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it sets a poor tone for the relationship going forward.
Right. Well, that's okay.
What not to do.
Note to self, don't do those things. Well, we covered a lot, but there are a few areas where, and I want to say a thank you to everyone in SHFM that answered our poll, that put in their 2 thoughts on, other things that we should cover. So we found some questions in there that I know that we didn't really touch on specifically today. So if you guys don't mind, we have a few more minutes. We're going to do a little bit of Q&A that we sourced prior to this call. And I think, as Eric pointed out on the chat, there are some awesome questions coming in there. We really appreciate them. Unfortunately, we can't get to them today, but we'll do everything we can to make sure that we incorporate these into also future sessions that the IAB is going to hold. So kind of first question that came in was looking at timelines. So in the onboarding process, what's the typical timeline from first contact comes across your desk to, a supplier being fully onboarded and ready to go?
Sure. I would put the average from first contact, from contract completion, rollout, all of that stuff, to around 6 months. As we've grown as an organization, made a few acquisitions, I mentioned Avendra, HPSI, we've kind of merged those all together. And I think actually at the moment, we're going through a process to make our contract a little bit more efficient and easier. Look at what we need, what we don't need, nice to haves, because it's becoming over time, it became a little complicated. So we realized 6 months might seem like a long time, and we're working on ways to improve that. But as a start, I would put that there, just working through the entire process from, first contact, understanding the total capabilities, and then contractually what, the provisions that we have in our contract are quite complicated because we're serving so many different industries, be it a GPO, the Aramark business. So we're working on making it more efficient, but I think that's a good guideline at the 6-month mark.
All right. 6 months and some patience, probably.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow. Understood. Well, in looking at when you are rolling out new products or new services, whatever that is, do you typically pilot them from the start with specific units or like a key client or a good fit before you go full rollout, or what is your approach to that?
I would, for an innovative product, I would say on selective occasions we do pilot products, but we also, I don't want to have an inflood of everyone wanting to pilot products everywhere. We have to be respectful of our operations, our clients. That's the most important thing to us, is making sure our operations are running smoothly, we're meeting the needs of our clients. But we certainly, where the need comes in, we want to test out a product across all businesses. I've been a part of that, sports, working with Betsy and workplace experience, all that kind of stuff. So we do it. And Betsy, feel free to jump in as well.
yeah, I mean, I would say too, there's like levels of piloting. So when we are engaging with a new provider, or there's a new item, new equipment, new ingredient, new products, our headquarters building in Philadelphia is a living lab to a degree. We have a development kitchen. We have a lab where we're testing some equipment more on the refreshment side, but we test it, we pilot it before we would, have it go out a little bit more widely. And to Patrick's point, it's selective based on what it is. But I would add that we tend to do an internal pilot to a degree, in different ways, depending on what the item is.
Okay. This next question came in, makes me excited because it falls into my role of sustainability. So thank you for submitting this one. But how does Aramark view sustainability or ESG goals when you're evaluating suppliers? What role does that play?
Honestly, it's become, and I'm not just kissing butt here, but it's become to the forefront of our conversations. I've been in the procurement within Aramark for 10 years, and I've seen the gradual increase of importance to where it is now, which is extremely important. So it's really almost at the forefront of the conversation when we're kicking off a prospective new supplier, putting out an RFP. We work with a third-party partner, EcoVadis, from a sustainability standpoint. So it is extremely important. It's the direction we're going. We're not slowing down. So we're looking for sustainability information. What are your advancements in that area? What are you doing differently? Really across all categories, across all services. So it's extremely important to us. I don't see it going away, and it's really a table stake almost for the entire conversation. So it has grown in importance over time, and I don't see it slowing down.
All right, best friend Patrick, great response. in closing, the question that we have that I think a lot of people are probably asking as soon as they got onto this call, or they've had it in the back of their mind. The size and scope of Avendra and Aramark as a whole is, astronomical. So if someone's working with another national account or client under Avendra, does that accelerate? How does that affect the application into Aramark in that relationship? Is it a better chance? Does it impact it at all?
Sure. Again, so somewhat of a complicated answer, but to answer your question, yes, it absolutely gives you a better chance. It is extremely helpful if we have a pre-existing relationship. And my team is often extending contracts from Aramark to the vendor business and a vendor business to Aramark. So when you are entering into our pool of suppliers, we want to find opportunities across the entire enterprise, the entire scope of the entities we support from a supply chain and procurement perspective. So, I mean, honestly, on a monthly basis, 10, 15 suppliers going each way, where we have a pre-existing relationship with a vendor, a need comes up on the Aramark side, and we can easily extend that relationship over to Aramark. So yeah, getting your foot in the door, having a relationship with a vendor will absolutely help. Yeah, and I've seen many examples of that over the time as we've put the two entities together.
I love it. I love it. Maria, I'm out of questions. You got anything before you wrap us up?
No, I think this has been great. I mean, we're right at
Yeah.
time, and I really want to thank both Patrick and Betsy for your openness, your just thoughtful answers and insights. I think this was fantastic and it's really invaluable for our membership. We're really excited we could put this together. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah.
Pleasure. Thank you for having us.
And just a reminder to everyone, we'll circulate and highlights and resources are going to come after this, but we want to invite you to think about this and remember IAB is putting on more of these sessions in the future, so look out for Compass and Sodexo and Guggenheimer as well in the future. And with that, Eric, can you close us out for the day?
I will. Yeah. Just reiterate again, a huge thank you to Maria, Michael, Patrick,
Yeah.
and Betsy. Outstanding presentation. Listen, I've led our Aramark Adventure business for many years, but seriously learned a lot today. Specifically, was there times that I definitely crossed the line between being persistent and
100%,
annoying?
100%.
100%. So
Daily.
sorry, Patrick. That's why I owe you beer sometimes, and we're good there. But no, seriously, I knew they had a lot of suppliers, but 2,500 is extremely impressive. And seriously, in my experience, the importance of products already being in distribution is very important. And just remember, like, hey, bring them solutions to help solve their problems, and your relationship will be so much better in the forefront. So, hey, you'll find a survey link in the chat. Be sure to take a moment to fill it out. Like, feedback is invaluable, right? If you don't want to fill it out, send us a note directly to either myself, Michael, or Maria. We want to hear about it. Like we said, we've got more events coming up in the future, so we want to make sure that we are delivering to you all what you need from SHFM. And then lastly, don't forget to register for the SHFM National Conference on September 16th, 18th, again in Palm Springs. It's Palm Springs in September. You can't go wrong. Once again, thank you all for your participation, and thank you for attending this industry session. That ends us. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Go have a great weekend, and we'll see you all next week. Cheers, everyone.
Thank
Take care,
you.
everybody. Thanks.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Take care.
Appreciate it.